Caleb Williams and the rest of the healthy Chicago Bears starters will make their preseason debut on Saturday against the Buffalo Bills, where we should expect to see some progress, but not a well-oiled machine.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1. You can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the social medias, plus the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. On the show today, we preview the Bears-Bills preseason game, focusing in on what we want to see from Caleb Williams in his debut. Looking to see some of the things that make Caleb Williams special without expecting him to come out and have a perfect game with no incomplete passes and slicing and dicing the Buffalo Bills defense. There's a nice middle ground we can look for him. And I think some specific things that in the context of a preseason game are going to matter a little bit more than what we might look for in a regular season game. We're also going to focus on this Chicago Bears offensive line in whatever form it ends up taking due to injuries. We'll go through where we're expecting from the rotations there, as well as the defensive line and some other key players to watch on both sides of the ball. But it's really going to be all about number 18 taking his first snaps under center in a Chicago Bears uniform. In the Hall of Fame game, he warmed up. We got to see him in the uniform and I guess take, practice snaps at that point, but obviously didn't end up taking the field. That was never part of the plan. But Matt Eberflus confirmed on Thursday that yes, indeed, Caleb Williams and the starters who are available to the team will be playing on Saturday. He said it's going to be a range of plays. They're not setting a specific number where it's like, okay, on play 15, we're taking everybody out. But he said they want to sort of get them into a rhythm a little bit, go through a couple of drives and try and get a sense of not just warming up and knocking the rust off, but maybe getting a little bit of something going there. So does that mean, the full first quarter? It sounds like that's what the Buffalo Bills are probably going to do. Well, it kind of depends on how many drives the Bears have and how long those particular drives go. Here's how Matt Eberflus describes their approach.
Caleb, and then the starters that are available to us. Yeah, in terms of not injured right now.
That could be multiple series.
Yeah, there's a range of plays. Range of plays. Unless they have a monster drive of 65 plays, and maybe I'll pull them out. But
what do you hope to see from Caleb in the number one offense Saturday?
Just more what we see now, where he is in terms of the progress. And this is his first time in live action. He's been getting a lot of good reps with our one defense, so I think it'll feel similar to him. But I really feel that when it's live there in the pocket, to be able to maneuver in the pocket, ride the pocket, escape either on the outside, B-gaps, all those things, and be able to deliver the ball and keep your eyes downfield. And really just the operation of it, getting in and out of the huddle, no pre-snap penalties, just clean operation.
So the starters who are available and able to health-wise will play. So we don't know exactly then what that means for the lineup. We know we're missing at least one offensive lineman. We'll talk about that in a little bit here. But most of the rest of the main pieces on offense have been healthy and, sometimes getting a veteran day off of practice or any kind of, a minor tweak or pull, they'll step out for the rest of that practice and then come back the next day. But we should expect to see a relatively full assortment of the offense around Caleb Williams. And so, all right, let's see where they're at. This is going to be a really good measuring stick right now. It's the preseason. So to me, it's less about, okay, do they score touchdowns and win the game? But as Eberflus was talking about a little bit there, the operation, how smooth are they in and out of the huddle? Is Caleb's cadence at the line of scrimmage? Can they avoid those pre-snap penalties? Can it look like a group of 11 players on the field who have been practicing this together over and over and over again in order to be able to perform in these situations? Or will it look like a group of 11 players who are still figuring each other out and figuring the offense out and are still very disjointed and not exactly where they need to be? Like that's going to be a really big part of this, just the offensive operation as a whole. Like it sounds a little bit trivial and a little bit, I don't know what, like meaningless almost, but it's only so meaningful because it's Caleb Williams' first game and he's a rookie and it's a brand new offense. And 3 games from now, in theory, or, certainly halfway through the regular season, it shouldn't even be something that you even think about or consider because, of course, they're already just all doing the thing and know how to do the thing. But it's only important now, and that's why we got to focus in on it now. And so I really want to see, a really smooth process from that regard. Like, you know that they're not really game planning for the defense. They're not trying to set up specific plays to attack certain players and matchups a certain way against the Buffalo Bills. So I'm not as worried about what happens after the catch and on the scoreboard, right? But I want to see Caleb's pre-snap operation, and then I want to see, what he does with his feet, what he does with his eyes after the snap. Like, is he making good decisions with the ball? And does he throw an accurate catchable ball? I mean, we know he does, but like on each individual play, was it a good decision? Was the ball accurate and catchable? Was it on time? Was there a miscommunication? Like, I just want to see like every step of that process. Check the box for Caleb, right? I don't care if the receiver catches the ball or not, or I don't care if, it gets tipped up in the air and then picked off and goes the other direction. Like, I want to see everything that Caleb Williams can control. Like, is he doing the right things? Is he checking the boxes? And if he's making mistakes, what are the reasons for those? And does he make the same one more than once? Is it a mechanical thing? Is it a miscommunication with a receiver or a play call type situation? Like, did he misread the coverage on a play, or was it just, poor decision on the front end that he just missed something that he wasn't saying? Like, all those different aspects I want to see from Caleb. But to me, it's not about specifically the completion percentage or the yards or the touchdowns. I mean, ideally, you'd like to avoid interceptions in a situation like this, but really it's about avoiding injury. No one touches Caleb Williams. I know the defense can, but, he's got to be able to, manipulate, move about the pocket correctly and know when he needs to get out and, extend plays and when he needs to just throw it away or throw it quickly or just get rid of it or, change the protection of the line of scrimmage or audible out of a play or pick up a blitz. Like, all those different things. There's a lot of different ways to protect Caleb Williams, and that's really what's going to be, most important beyond all of this is just none of the key starters or really any players getting hurt as best as you can avoid it. So I would expect we'll see, I would guess 15 to 20 plays from Caleb. So is that 3 5-play drives, or, if they have a 10-play drive and a 3-play drive and a 3-play drive, it's like something along those lines. If they have a couple 3-and-outs, but then maybe a longer drive in there, like something like that, so they can kind of see the game flow a little bit here and the offense try and flow and build some things together. But certainly, depending on the health of the offensive line, and they need to maintain that health throughout the game, that can also affect what we're going to see from Caleb Williams. We know one starter is not going to play, or it would be a really big surprise if somehow in 2 days Nate Davis is ready to go on this Bears offensive line. But as of now, with still time for this to change, we should see the rest of the offensive line out there potentially, like as long as guys don't have setbacks between now and then. So we'll take a look at what kind of group we're going to see up front and what we want to see from them, as well as the defensive line rotation on the other side, next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. We're talking exhaust kits, superchargers, LED headlights, roof racks, and more. So whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your vehicle, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. this Bears offensive line is the crux of Caleb Williams' playing time, and the ability that we're going to get to see him for a couple drives here is largely reflective of an offensive line that has started to get a bit healthier, all with the exception of right guard Nate Davis, who his injury is being categorized as more of a quote-unquote setback. It's a soft tissue issue that Matt Eberflus said, like just something he's been kind of dealing with, and then comes back on and kind of gone back and forth on it. So it's a little bit more week to week than day to day at this point is the latest characterization of this injury. It's kind of said the same thing about Kyler Gordon, who's missed a couple weeks with practice, and we'll get to the defense and some other guys in a minute here. But other than Nate Davis, it sounds like Darnell Wright's back, but Larry Borom was getting some reps for him, so we'll kind of see exactly, like that's the other question mark I still have as whether it'll be Larry Borom starting at right tackle or Darnell Wright starting at right tackle. But given that we have a couple more, like another day, it's mostly just walkthroughs. It's not practices at this point to get to the game, that maybe just this lingering time before the Bills game will be enough for Darnell Wright to be able to go out there. But we know Tevin Jenkins has been back and healthy, and he confirmed on Thursday, 100% good to go, feeling good. Braxton Jones has been out there again pretty steadily for a while. And then your two centers have been rotating, and now Ryan Bates has been playing a lot of right guard. And that's really what I'm expecting this offensive line rotation to look like in the preseason game. I think the Bears are going to come out with Coleman Shelton as your starting center, Ryan Bates as your starting right guard, and then if healthy, Darnell Wright as your starting right tackle. If Wright can't go, I would guess Larry Borom will get the start at right tackle, and then we'll still play backup left tackle when the starters come out. But we've got a pretty good sense from the first preseason game and now practices that like if Coleman Shelton is starting at center and Bates is starting at guard, then we're not going to see Bates at center. And so everyone in the center depth chart kind of moves up a slot there. And then your backup offensive line of left to right, Larry Borom, Jatari Carter, Jerome Carvin, Matt Pryor, and Jake Curhan. And that to me feels like a pretty set offensive line rotation right now. But regardless of exactly who's out there, I need to see them protect Caleb Williams well and effectively and communicate and move things through, when passing off pass rushers and stunts and picking up blitzes and making sure that all the calls are right. And I really want to get a sense for what level of confidence we can have in their alternative plans at right guard, given Nate Davis's lack of availability and the continual issues that we're seeing with him. If Ryan Bates is going to be your starting right guard for some or all of this upcoming season, I'd like to get a sense of just how good that looks in this offense in Chicago. Ryan Poles, obviously a really big fan of this player, traded for him, has been trying to trade for him for years prior to this, but was a backup in Buffalo last season for a reason. And maybe not a good one, but a reason. And we'd like to see him come out and say, okay, are we confident enough in Ryan Bates that, Nate Davis can sit on the bench and be injured, and you'll feel like, that's fine. The Bears have a really solid alternate option here. Or do we go out there and maybe there's a little bit of shakiness, and it's like, well, maybe you do want Nate Davis to get well soon and get back out there, because he's certainly on paper, the talent is higher with Nate Davis. Their salaries and general value reflect that, or what they were supposed to be. Their talent is supposed to be versus what we've actually gotten on the field here. So that to me is really going to be critical. And also Coleman Shelton at center. We really haven't seen either of these centers doing live game action type stuff. In the last preseason game with no starters, we saw Jerome Carvin get the start at center. So we haven't seen Shelton really play in this offense either. So I want to get a sense of okay, if Ryan Bates is going to have to play right guard, how confident are you in your plan B center? Because initially it seemed like Ryan Bates was probably going to win that center competition, but if he has to start at right guard, then Coleman Shelton gets to be your number one center. Are the snaps clean? Are the protections called out properly? Is there good chemistry along that group on the interior? Can you keep Caleb clean up front? It's all about Caleb Williams in these games and making sure that he's got the best opportunity to develop and stay healthy throughout this process as possible. And then secondary to that is, what level of confidence can we have in this group? Because the Bills have a pretty good defensive line, right? We don't know if Von Miller specifically is going to play in this game, but guys like AJ Epineza and Greg Rousseau and Dwayne Smoot on the edge, and of course, Ed Oliver on the interior there, that's a group that Bears defensive coordinator Eric Washington coached and will know well and can, give the offensive line maybe a few tips here and there, but it'll be a good test. It's not like the Bears have been going up against scrubs on their own defensive line, but, across the board, there's a little bit more proven production in what the Bills have on the defensive line than what the Bears have on the defensive line. And I'd like to see that group for Chicago give us a little bit more confidence in their ability to. Of course, we know Montez Sweat et cetera, et cetera. But like, we didn't get to see Gervon Dexter in the first game. Like, let's see that progress. Heard all this talk about how in great shape he is, and his body sounds like it's great. But like, we've talked about on this podcast before. His physical tools have always been his strength, and all we hear about is that strength that he has is still a strong strength. But like, I want to see him get better in the areas that we still need to see him get better and look like a guy who can be a real threat, a consistent threat as an interior pass rusher there. DeMarcus Walker seems to be in a much better place at this stage of the process. So like, let's see it, right? Like, the offensive line has been talking about how well he's been playing at practice. Like, I'd like to see him come out and have a big game against the Bills' offensive line, right? It's not just like with Caleb. It's not necessarily about the specific stat, right? I don't need to see Dexter have 1.5 sacks and a couple tackles for losses. I don't need to see DeMarcus Walker have a big strip sack or something. I mean, it's not about the stat sheet per se, especially in the preseason. But kind of like with Austin Booker in the Hall of Fame game, like, I don't think he recorded like a tackle, but like, it wasn't about the stats he put down, but it was like, okay, he's winning some blocks and setting the edge properly in the running game and getting into the backfield, and then the quarterback gets rid of the ball, but like, he won his individual pass rush and did well on his individual reps. The things that were within his control on any given play, he was doing well at fairly consistently. I want to see that from Gervon Dexter. I want to see that from DeMarcus Walker. And then I'd like to see as a whole, the defensive line at least make Josh Allen uncomfortable, right? Again, it's not about necessarily having to finish it with the sacks, but like, does he have all day back there in this game? Does he take a 5-step drop, stand there, look left, look right, look left, throw? You know what I mean? Or are they moving him off the spot at least a little bit? Is there feel like there's some disruption to the quarterback? Doesn't mean it has to be every snap they're always getting right in Josh Allen's face, but like, again, give me a level of confidence in progress from the young players on this defensive line that then we can be a little bit more excited about. Because there's some veteran players on this Bills offensive line that should be a good test for them. I don't know where I would rate the Bills offensive line across the NFL, but guys like Deion Dawkins and David Edwards on their left side, even Connor McGovern, like, they've been around the block quite a bit. And then their right side, Osiris Torrance and Spencer Brown, are recent draft picks in the last handful of seasons that have grown and developed into decent players for them. So there's not like a big gaping hole on the Bills offensive line where it's, like, oh, Gervon Dexter is just going to have this really easy matchup. Unless, I actually don't know if any of those guys are injured at this point, but I know those are the guys that they're counting on to be their starters this season. And they have a couple pretty good backups as well. Lyle Collins, and they drafted Cedric Van Pran in the 5th round. I'm excited to see him. So I think across the board, we're going to see both sides of the Bears trenches with a reasonable test against a quality opponent who's maybe not, number one in the league at their respective positions there, but like good. And like, you want to match up, you want to stack up with them. And especially O-line versus D-line is not something that's as vanilla as we think about when it comes to coverages and routes and passing concepts, right? Like, pass rushing is pass rushing. I don't know that you're necessarily hiding your pass rush move to try and be vanilla in the preseason. Like, Gervon Dexter is trying to win, and he's trying to get the quarterback. And it's not like, oh, it's so vanilla so it doesn't count. Like, no, this is for the guys in the trenches. It's just mano a mano, strength against strength. I'm trying to move you, you're trying to move me. I'm trying to get around you, you're trying to stop me. Who wins? Let's see the Bears win in the trenches and not leave this game feeling like, oh man, the Bears have deficits up front on both sides of the ball. That to me is what's going to be super critical for this group around Caleb Williams in this game. There's also some individual guys on both sides of the ball that I'm really curious to see, including Velus Jones, who Matt Eberflus says is going to get some handoffs, some carries from the running back position. And I'm also wondering if there'll be any veterans that they choose to sit, not because they're injured, but just because you don't need to play them in the preseason, plus some special teams questions and a few other guys that we should be keeping an eye on in this game on Saturday. Next on Locked On Bears. Locked On Bears is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, because LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right candidates for your team faster and for free. I'm on LinkedIn, and I bet you're on LinkedIn as well. If you're not, a lot of your friends, family members, and coworkers are all part of LinkedIn. And that's why LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but hey, they might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Locked On Bears is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp provides online therapy that's here to help you be your best self, especially in all of our busy lives, whether you got, kids, summer activities and school coming up right around the corner and getting them ready for that, or, big projects at work and other demands in your life. It's easy to let your priorities slip and kind of neglect yourself in a lot of this process. Self-care is really important. And when you feel like you don't have time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. And that's where BetterHelp comes in. I do online therapy every single week, and it's a really important part of my own personal mental health regimen. And that's where something like BetterHelp can really be a game changer. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. We're only going to see Caleb Williams and the starting offense and starting defense for, again, a range of plays I would expect in probably the 10, 15, 20, at most 25 type play range here. And so we're still going to get at least, 3 quarters or so of everybody else. And there's a lot of everybody else that I'm interested to see in this process. First and foremost, I am wondering if we're going to see all the healthy starters, or if at least the veteran proven player guys who don't need to play in the preseason. Like, is there any point to Keenan Allen playing in this preseason game? Like, yeah, I almost said Justin Fields. You want the Caleb Williams chemistry connection to build a little bit there, but is 5 preseason snaps for Keenan Allen going to add a ton to that chemistry? Probably not. Like, he's 32. He's been through a lot of these. They'll be fine. Like, I don't think I need to see Keenan Allen out there. I get that, like, DJ Moore is 27, so he's a lot younger. He doesn't have the same sort of, like, veteran, I've been here for 10 years, so I don't need to play thing. But, like, you just gave the guy a huge contract extension. Do I need to see DJ Moore out there with the starters? No, but at the same time, you don't want to hit Caleb out there with neither of his top 2 wide receivers. You'd like him to be able to work with them. That's part of the value of playing preseason snaps. So, like, I would be perfectly fine with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze as your 2 starters and telling Keenan Allen, don't worry about it, man. Like, we'll still have the other guys out there, and they'll be fine. They're young and spry. They can take a hit a little bit. They've got the idea of more durability than Keenan Allen, even if that's probably not actually scientifically accurate there. And same thing like on defense. Like, I don't know, does Kevin Byard at age 31 or 32 or whatever he is at this point, he's 30. He turns 31 next week. Future happy birthday to Kevin Byard. Yeah, he's new in this defense, so he probably should get some snaps out there, and I'm guessing he will. But, like, he wasn't playing a lot of preseason in Tennessee. Keenan Allen wasn't playing a lot of preseason in Los Angeles, hadn't for like 5 years in LA. So it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't see those guys. And then it's like, okay, like, does Montez Sweat need to play? Probably not. Does Jalen Johnson need to be out there in a preseason game? It feels to me like guys like Jalen Johnson, Montez Sweat, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, they're not gaining anything by playing in this Hall of Fame game. The exception being maybe the wide receivers gaining the connection with Caleb Williams. But, like, they're not becoming better wide receivers by getting these extra reps in a preseason game. Whereas even somebody like starters like, Braxton Jones, he's in year 3. DeAndre Swift, like, he's in year 5 or 6. Like, there's at least some value to a younger player who has a lot of experience, but, like, being out there in this offense with these teammates and having every little rep to work on their technique in whatever aspect of the game. If that's DeAndre Swift's pass blocking, and there's new ways they're asking him to pass block, or it's Braxton Jones trying to take on the bull rush better. I mean, some of those guys, Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards are right on the line for me there, but given just that this is only their second year here with some different guys around them, like, sure, like, get them out there and play them a little bit. Like, I think we'll see most of the veterans out there, just maybe not Keenan Allen, and then Kevin Byard's kind of on the fence for me there. And I probably wouldn't play Montez Sweat or Jalen Johnson either. Regardless, the players we will see after them, I really want to see Velus Jones. as a running back, get some carries, and we shouldn't expect him to be Walter Payton or Gale Sayers, getting his first ever carries at running back, but like, see if there's any kind of naturalness to it. It's, at the end of the day, football is football. He's been carrying a football and running with it his whole life, whether it's at the wide receiver position or as a kick returner. Once the ball is in his hands, it's follow blockers, avoid tacklers, get as many yards as possible. Like he does that. But conceptually, when they hand it to him on outside zone and inside zone and different run concepts, will he hit the right gaps? Will he make the right reads on, okay, this linebacker filled that hole, so I need to cut to this side, or I need to bounce it all the way to, or will he be too eager to go into kick returner mode and try and bounce it to the edge and use his speed to just outrun everybody, right? Like, I want to see if there's some natural instincts there at the running back position, because we know he's fast. We know he's fairly strong. I mean, he's a thicker return guy there, but I want to see, does he actually have a potential future as a running back, or is this a little bit more gimmicky to make the defense have to kind of account for where he's lining up on any given play there? That to me is really going to be something fun to watch here throughout the course of this game, and also where he fits in this running back rotation. Because we saw last week in the Hall of Fame game, Herbert and Roschon Johnson were alternating drives. Very clearly an open competition for the number 2, number 3 running back spot. So then does Velus Jones come in number 4? Does he rotate in with those guys in the 2-3 rotation battle here? Is he ahead of Travis Homer, or is Velus Jones not getting carries until the end of the fourth quarter when Austin Reed and your 4th string quarterback is in the game? Is that when Velus Jones gets his running back reps, and does that take away from the Ian Wheelers and Demetric Feltons of the world at the bottom of the running back depth chart? Like, that to me is going to be really interesting. I'd like to see Gerald Everett's involvement in this offense and see if what they can squeeze out of him at the tight end position as well. And honestly, we talked about a little bit with the offensive line, but some of the other backup linemen, given the Bears' injury concerns across the offensive line position throughout training camp, I want to see the backup offensive line continue to look good. Does Larry Borum look like a guy we can trust as a starter if we need to? Does Jatari Carter look like a guy we could trust as a starter if Tevin Jenkins goes down? And same with Matt Pryor and Jake Curhan, the entire backup offensive line. Do those guys got starting caliber potential here if the Bears have other injuries and need to thrust other guys into that starting lineup, even just for a couple of games here and there? That's another thing I definitely want to grab hold of. And then I want to see on this defensive line some of the guys who either played well in the Hall of Fame game or didn't play well in the Hall of Fame game. Can you either string along your success or turn around where you were struggling? It didn't seem like Dominique Robinson played very well in the Hall of Fame game, but he made some big plays at practice this past week. Can he translate that into a game and look like a guy who is staking a spot in this offensive or in this defensive line rotation, or a guy who's not going to make the 53-man roster? Can Austin Booker stack together another nice game up front? Byron Cowart had a strip sack in the Hall of Fame game at defensive tackle. Can we see him make another play and look like a guy who will play some actual snaps in this defensive line rotation? And then guys that struggled, like at linebacker, Amin Ogbaniga got beat for a touchdown, in the Hall of Fame game and looked rough out there. Can he bounce back? Micah Baskerville had a pass interference penalty or a defensive holding penalty that actually probably saved a touchdown, but I think he missed a tackle in there as well. Some of these linebackers, can they bounce back and get in here? And then, Jonathan Owens missed time for the Olympics. We haven't seen a ton of him throughout this process. I'd love to see what he can do at safety, and if he gives you the feeling of a guy who, again, if you have an injury, is this a guy who plays like a starter out there against other backups, or does he look like a backup against other backups? Last thing, the special teams kick return rotation. We didn't see Velus Jones do any returning or any offense at all in the Hall of Fame game. Will they give him some returns in this one? Will we see Rome Odunze on the punt return team? He's been getting reps at practice. Could be one of the first guys back there. DeAndre Carter, will he get some returns? Tyler Scott's going to be in the return game. Khalil Herbert has been one of the top kick return guys at practice as well. Who's going to carve out their role as, not only do I help out on offense, but I'm also valuable for you in the return game. And that's why I'm matter so much on your 53-man roster. Again, I don't need to see a kick return touchdown in order to be impressed, but good decisions on those, certainly on punts. Dante Pettis muffed one in the Hall of Fame game. If he's going to get opportunities there, catch the ball. Can you make a guy miss? Can you not run into the back of your blocker and fall down? I mean, not that they did that, but those kind of things, those kind of decision-making processes throughout the game on special teams. That's really what I'll be looking for in this Bears-Bills game. Whatever happens, win, lose, or if we get rained out of the fourth quarter again, which I don't think is going to happen, you can be sure We're going to break it down for you right here on the Locked On Bears podcast. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're looking for your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Football. We're your team every day, and that includes your fantasy football team. And Locked On Fantasy Football is here to help you get ready for your drafts upcoming, and then throughout the rest of the season, waiver wire pickups, lineup decisions, trades, you name it. They've got all of your player evaluations covered on Locked On Fantasy Football. So find that on YouTube or wherever you find this podcast. Coming back Monday for another episode of Locked On Bears and another opportunity to bear down.